Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we've got something pretty interesting. We took 12 biblical verses, sort of at random, really, and looked at them across 4 different ancient texts, the Greek Septuagint versions and the standard Hebrew Masoretic.
Right, the MT and the LXX traditions.
Exactly. And we just asked, okay, can these sources give us a coherent way to think about the problem of evil?
And the answer was surprisingly yes. And it's quite concrete, actually.
Okay.
What emerged is this central idea. Evil isn't really talked about as some abstract concept, a void or something.
Right.
It's consistently shown as a tangible work, a product. It's this deep contrast between the work of human hands and the work of God's hands.
So sin as misdirected creativity, is that the idea?
That's the core of it, yeah. Sin understood as misdirected creative agency.
Okay. Let's unpack that right away. Work of hands. What does that actually mean in the text?
Well, it really boils down to 2 key Hebrew words. You've got mathisa, which means a deed, an action, or even a physical product, something made.
Right, a product.
And then yod, which is hands. But it means more than just hands. It's agency, power, the ability to do or make.
Okay.
So put them together. Sin is the literal, tangible result, the product of using our power, our agency in the wrong way, like building something poorly.
That really shifts how you think about idolatry then. It makes it less specific, more universal. How does crafting idols connect to all sin?
That's a great point. Look at Jeremiah, chapter 32, verse 30. It talks about the Israelites provoking me with the work of their hands.
Right.
Making idols becomes the sort of the ultimate example because it's pure self-reliance, right? You're literally making the God you want.
You create your own reality to worship.
Exactly. The product of your hands becomes the source of your downfall. It sets the pattern for all misdirected work.
So what about when that energy isn't creative but destructive? Like violence.
Yeah, even destructive acts are framed as works. Think about Lamech in Genesis.
This boast, right, after killing someone.
Precisely. Genesis 4.23. He boasts about his violent work. But what's fascinating, especially if you look at the Septuagint versions, is they add this immediate consequence. This violent work brings sorrow or grief back onto Lamech himself.
So the bad product actually harms the person who made it.
Yes. Self-inflicted damage. The faulty creation wounds the creator.
Okay, so sin is this defective product, this work that's inherently flawed and even self-destructive.
Yeah.
How do the texts describe its failure, its, inevitable decay?
They often use these really vivid architectural metaphors. Isaiah 30, for instance, verse 13. It paints iniquity as like a breach falling or a bulge swelled out in a wall set on high.
So the sin is the faulty wall.
Exactly. It's the structure they built. And it already contains the flaw, the weakness that guarantees its own sudden collapse. It shows this intrinsic futility.
The work itself is doomed from the start.
Right. It never ultimately succeeds. Like Job says, the wicked person's harvest, it shall perish before the time. It just doesn't yield.
So if all this human work is fundamentally flawed, guaranteed to fail, what's the divine counterwork? What does God do?
Well, it starts with something positive, like illumination, guidance.
Okay.
Job 29, verse 3 captures that ideal, God's lamp shining, letting people walk through darkness. God's work is like the correct blueprint, the instruction manual.
But instructions are one thing. How does God actually undo the faulty structure we already built? What's the big fix?
The ultimate divine counterwork. It's described as both, legal and also something deeper, a change in being, you could say. Ontological.
Okay, how so?
Look at Romans 6, verse 7. It says, the one who has died, meaning died with Christ, is acquitted from the sin. Or another way to put it is set free.
Acquitted, set free.
Right. God performs this radical act, this work, our union with Christ's death, that basically nullifies the whole corrupt contract. He declares that entire faulty human enterprise finished, voided.
And that leads us right to Christ himself, doesn't it? Like in 2 Corinthians.
Exactly. 2 Corinthians 1.20. Christ is presented as the singular divine ergon, the work.
The ultimate yes.
The definitive yes to all of God's promises. He is the masterwork that resolves this whole conflict, this clash between God's perfect design and our flawed, rebellious workmanship.
So pulling back to the big picture then, why allow this destructive human work in the first place, if God knew?
Well, the analysis seems to point towards this idea. evil, this faulty workmanship, it exists in God's foresight, not as like a substance he created, but as a necessary potential.
The potential.
Yeah, a logical requirement that comes with creating genuinely free agents, beings who can actually choose to create, to act.
So the freedom, the ability for us to be creative agents ourselves, was worth the foreseen risk of us messing it up.
It seems that way. The freedom to build was worth the risk of building badly.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound thought to chew on, doesn't it? If this flawed human work is the necessary dark backdrop,
the thing that allows God's perfect redemptive work to shine even brighter, then maybe, just maybe, the final state of humanity, redeemed, rescued from our own mess, is actually a greater glory than the original untested innocence we had in Eden. Something for you to think about.